I'm just too tough to cry.
Hello, all you little sugar titty babies.
Hello.
Long time no see. We took a little break, but we're back.
Welcome back.
And better than ever. We hung up pictures back here, and you can't tell because there's glare on them.
Of course not. Why would we know how to do anything correctly?
We don't, and we never will. But that's the allure of this podcast.
Yeah, you really never know what you're going to get from us. Because guess what? We don't know what we're going to get
We
from
don't know,
us.
except that we switched the betting this time.
Yeah, look at us.
Anyways.
Welcome back.
Yeah, welcome back to Too Tough to Cry, baby. And honestly, this episode, maybe not too tough to cry. I don't know. I'm actually very... So if you guys don't know, this is Mental Health Awareness Week.
Yes.
I know May is the month, but we didn't even know that. Just a disclosure right there.
Yeah,
Disclaimer.
Well, full disclosure.
Yeah, we didn't know that this week specifically was Mental Health Week, and we had already planned on talking about mental health issues. So
It was just perfect.
yeah, it fell into the right spot, and now we get to talk about mental health issues and our experiences with them and without them. And I think this episode I'm a little nervous for, so pardon me for being all over the place. I've never really spoken about some of the issues that I've had in my life.
Mm-hmm.
So, hi, Dad. I know you're going to listen to this. And hopefully you'll have a better understanding of what goes on in my head. And also, trigger warning for everyone watching or listening. There will be things that we touch base upon, like self-harm. So just letting you guys know before getting too deep in here. If you want to escape now. But don't, because it's not like I'm going to sit here and make it gory. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's not going to be anything crazy, but just in case you're triggered by conversations like this, I'm letting you know now we're going to be talking about things like that.
Depression, anxiety, that kind of stuff.
Yes.
Before we dive into that, it has been 2 weeks. So, have you been?
I was like, where are you going with this? It's been 2 weeks. Yes, it hasn't been 2 weeks since we've seen each other.
No, not at all.
We've seen each other a bit. I'm good, though. Cam went to New York yesterday. It was my first time living in our humble abode where I didn't stay. I slept alone in the house.
Yeah.
And
it's your first time.
My first time. And for those who don't know, my house is haunted. I'm not even going to get into it, but I know it's haunted. I've had experiences.
That's for another episode.
Yeah, that's for another episode. I have a haunted little bungalow that I live in. It's like 100 years old. I don't have issues. I've always wanted to live in a haunted house, so like I don't have issues. But sometimes I get spooked, right? So this was the first time that I was staying alone without Cam.
Mm-hmm.
I was a little nervous, but like I was totally fine. Throughout the whole day, I was totally fine.
See, not me. I would have... Every noise would have been like, oh, I'm going to die.
Well, there was definitely, the ghost did, I'm 100% positive, the ghost did something in my house. I don't know if it was like shutting something or moving something, but I heard a sound. All my animals were in the room with me, and I heard the sound clear as day in my apartment. And I was just like, well, there she is.
I would be
I think it's a woman.
So fast.
Yeah.
I would pack up all 4 animals and be like, Cam, we gotta live somewhere else.
I don't hate it. I never did. I like, even when it was like the activity when we first moved in was crazy, like for a first week, like it's undeniably haunted. Even the maintenance man told us it was haunted.
Well, me and Scott talk about this all the time, how if like in scary movies, when something really spooky and haunted happens, the family's like, well, we'll just stay and see it through. Meanwhile, it's exactly what you're doing. Because I'm always like, they're so stupid. Why wouldn't they just leave? I would be out of there so fast.
I haven't seen anything that scared me to like chilled me to the bone.
Yeah, I guess fair. That's fair.
I hope that I don't see anything, because then I would reconsider my living situation. But
yeah.
Anyway, it decided to storm last night.
I know. Of all nights for you to be home alone with your dogs.
My Dugan, my dog Dugan, my Dugan, is petrified of thunder, lightning, fucking noises like that. It's ridiculous. I don't know when it happened, why it happened. But I'm home alone yesterday, and I go to take him out, and he goes to pee, and as soon as he goes to lift his leg to pee, thunder happens, and he's like, fuck this, and wants to go back inside.
Sprints inside,
right? And so I'm like, okay. Like, Dugan's really good at holding his pee and like whatnot if he has to. I'm in the kitchen, and all of a sudden I hear water splashing on the ground. I'm like, what is that? And I turn. Dugan's in my fucking room. And okay, he just got neutered. So like his new thing is like when he goes out to pee for the first time, it's like 30 seconds worth of pee. Like he like builds up a pocket of pee and says, you know what? I'm going to release the Kraken. Kraken?
I have no idea what you're talking about.
Okay. Okay, whatever. You guys, the Kraken. Release the Kraken. It's in the fucking Pirates of the Caribbean.
Then it's Kraken.
Kraken. Okay.
What's Kraken?
What's Kraken? Crackalacken? Are you asking what a Kraken is?
What's
or are
Kraken?
you saying what's Kraken?
Jacqueline?
Anyway, so he pees for like 30 seconds straight. So I look over and Dugan is literally pissing on the ground to nothing, just pissing on the ground. And I run in like, no. This
in your bedroom, right?
In my bedroom. This motherfucker, mind you, I have a cow rug on the ground. He gets scared. He knows he's doing something wrong. And I'm like, no. And he walks around the bed pissing the whole time.
Just the whole time
the way
pee's
around
coming
the bed.
out?
Yes, and I'm telling you, it's at least 30 to 60 seconds worth of piss. It was like the Nile River in my bedroom, and I was home alone to clean it up. I went through an entire roll of paper towels.
No. I would have honestly just been like, I'm not dealing with this.
My windows were wide
right
open.
now.
My windows were wide open. My neighbor Jake, shout out Jake, he's the coolest. But he was like sitting outside, and I'm on the phone with Cam. I called him right away.
Oh
like,
yeah,
as soon as it happened, because it was so funny. I'm calling him right away, but I'm yelling in the midst of it all, being like, "I'm taking you to the pound. What do you do?" Like just all this, like, "What? It's a river!" And like my neighbor is directly outside my window, just like looking in, like, "What the fuck is going on?" So now I got to explain it to Jake that I was not abusing my dog, that he pissed everywhere.
And Dugan's like the best dog
He's so
ever.
good. He's so embarrassed about having accidents too. Like he's had maybe 4 or 5 accidents in the house, and every time, and it's usually because he has a stomach ache and he can't hold it any longer, he hides it.
That's the worst
He
part.
shits and he hides it because he's so embarrassed. I will come home when I lived in my old apartment. I've had paper bags over his shit. I've had pairs of shoes over his shit. I've had the cat bowls over his shit. He literally drags something to cover his poop. And as soon as you open the door, he just kind of looks at you like, "I'm so sorry."
Oh,
He is an angel. He is an absolute fucking angel, and I love him, and I'm not mad at him for peeing because I get it. He was scared and whatnot. At least he got it out of his system.
Yeah, exactly.
And also, just quick, I got my lips done. That's why they're swollen, and I got dysport. That's what happened in the past 2 weeks. Just letting you guys know.
I was like, why are you telling me that?
Well,
I forgot
just in
I
case you
literally
guys
asked you.
noticed via watching this, my lips look like a balloon.
Your lips look luscious and your forehead looks frozen.
Yeah, my forehead feels frozen right now, but that's what's happened in the past 2 weeks. And Cam's in New York. He's coming back tonight, and my dog pissed everywhere. I live in a haunted house, Botox and lip stuff.
Woohoo.
How about you?
How about me? I picture this.
Okay.
I went to a club opening for my friend
Oh.
Julian's girlfriend. She
Wow,
basically,
you haven't been able to tell anybody
I
this.
have
Oh
been
my God,
holding
I know
on to this story for the podcast. I literally haven't posted it anywhere because I've been waiting to talk
Wow,
about it on the podcast.
This is incredible. Okay.
So it's this club opening. Yeah, so my friend Julian, his girlfriend Haley, he actually took this photo of her. She looks like Bridget Bardot. She's beautiful. And they blew it up huge. It's like 100 feet. Not really. I don't size. I really can't scale it, but it's huge. It's the whole side of the wall of the club. So it was the opening, and we all went. And I'm standing there, and I'm talking to Natalie. And Natalie grabs my hands in the middle of whatever I'm saying and goes, "Jack, I need you to not freak out." And in my head, I'm like, what could she be talking about? I was like, there's no way Scott's behind me sucking face with another girl. I'm like, that's the only thing that I could think she would think I would freak out over, you know?
Yeah.
She goes, "Tom Holland is standing right behind you."
I mean, let's preface this. In case you don't know Jack, she's
I love
literally
Tom Holland.
obsessed.
I'm like, my heart is racing just talking about this. I nearly shat myself. I literally was like, "Oh, what?" And she was like, "Do not look behind you. He's literally right behind you. We can switch places." So we switch places, and I look right behind her, and there he was.
And there he was.
Oh, I'm like shaking just retelling the story right there. like less than 10 feet away from me, just sitting there. And I was like, oh my God. And then of course Scott's there and all of our friends are there and they're all laughing because they're like, oh, poor Scott.
Poor Scott.
And guys, listen, I love Tom Holland, but like, obviously I'm not going to go fucking do something bad with him. Just the fact that he's there though, I was like, oh my God. And so I didn't want to be too much of a fangirl, even though literally I think everyone on earth knows how much I love him.
Yeah.
So I didn't go up to him. And I just kind of decided that we'll cross paths another day and then we can become besties.
Yeah. I feel like it's going to happen since you literally were only 10 feet if that away from him already.
Oh, 100%.
I mean, that's what I hope for when Shia happens.
Yeah.
Like, I've seen him multiple times in real life. Haven't talked to him. I played the cool part.
Yeah, and then we'll all become besties.
Yeah.
I was telling so obviously as soon as I saw him, I texted pretty much every single friend I had to be like, Tom Holland is where I am right now.
You didn't text me.
You know, because I had to tell you, on the phone.
Mm-hmm.
I had to.
Okay.
That was a little too exciting. But so I texted my friend Jackie, and she was like, "Oh my God, was Zendaya there too?" And I was like, "If Zendaya was in the same club as me, I actually would not be okay." Like,
would you talk to Zendaya?
No,
Oh.
I think I would faint. I would be like, Tom Holland, that was so fucking sick. And I have a feeling we're all going to be besties one day. But Zendaya is literally like, she's literally a god to me. Like, she is like not a human. So if I saw her in person, I'd faint. I would faint.
I think I'd be normal with Zendaya, but I would actually talk to her. I'd be like, "Yo, what's up?" Like, I feel like she'd be really cool to have a conversation with.
I think I could be fine talking to Tom Holland. I would just be like, "Hey, what's up?" I feel like I would probably accidentally start mocking his accent because I do that when I get nervous.
I do that when I'm drunk.
Oh, well,
I will
mix
pick up
of
on
drunk
accent.
and nervous.
Yeah, I will. Like when I was living in Georgia, people fucking hated me.
Yeah.
Because I'd have a southern accent out of
all
nowhere.
All of a sudden, I do that all the time. So I feel like I would start talking in a little British accent. But with Zendaya, I feel like I wouldn't even be able to like think of clear thoughts to say to her. I would be so nervous and just feel so unworthy.
I know, and she's so fucking beautiful.
I would have to sneak into the conversation if I could remember.
Well, let him know
she liked one of my Instagram photos once.
Let him know who else was there.
Oh!
Spoiler alert for the future Spider-Man movie.
I was like, who? Yeah. Oh, that was actually really fucking cool. So, yeah, Tom Holland's there. He was with Tobey Maguire, which if you are our age or older probably,
the original Spider-Man.
The original Spider-Man, Tobey Maguire. Just two Spider-Mans hanging out. Yeah. When I told Shanley, she was like, "You just have two Spider-Mans with you."
You had two heroes with you.
Yeah, it was so fucking sick.
Two heroes ready to save the day. You imagine if anything went wrong in that club.
Oh, we'd be safe.
You guys would be totally safe.
But 100%. It was just so cool seeing. Honestly, this is what I was saying to Scott. Like, obviously seeing Tom Holland again, sick because Lord knows I love him. But seeing Tobey Maguire was really cool. I was more like, oh my God, because I never thought I'd see Tobey Maguire.
Yeah, I feel like he's kind of an anomaly. Like, there's certain people in LA that you're like, I'm never going to see them.
Yeah, exactly. Like, again, Tom Holland's like our age, a little younger. But so I don't know. I had heard that he had been going to clubs because our friend Joey, he told me that his friend saw Tom Holland at Adhd.
Fucking Adhd.
So he's like going clubbing.
I
so,
hate that
you know,
club.
I would think I would probably bump into him.
Are we trying to go out to Adhd?
If Zendaya's going to be there.
You trying to go out to Adhd this weekend?
Yeah.
Okay.
No.
We're just going to post up at all the clubs now. Ready to become best friends with Tom Holland and Zendaya if she shows up and Shia LaBeouf if he's there.
Could you imagine if you just were like homies with Tom Holland and Zendaya? Like those were just your friends.
I
no
wish,
problem.
I don't know. I don't know. I can't. I hang out with vibey people. I don't know if they're vibey or not. Like, I don't know them as people. I know them as actors.
I don't know them as people either.
But I feel like Zendaya would be really cool for sure.
I just feel like Zendaya's. She
seems like a bro.
She just seems so cool. I don't know. I'm obsessed. So anyways,
depression.
back to the main no. So what else happened? I think that's pretty much it.
Yeah.
That's my only newsworthy thing. I actually wrote down what has happened. Oh,
What?
guys, I've decided I'm going to stop smoking weed as much because I think it's slowing down my thoughts and the way I speak. I've always struggled with getting my words out really clear and concise because my brain is thinking all these things and then I have to try and formulate it and I always end up stuttering and misspeaking, whatever. It's something actually that I'm a little insecure about recently and it's getting worse. And I genuinely believe it's because of weed.
Well,
I feel like I'm foggy.
You just literally told that story 100 miles an hour without messing up, so it might not be doing as much as you think it's doing.
Well, that's the thing. If I try to, I don't want to talk to everyone like I'm on speed.
Well, you always do anyway. When is that going to change?
You think Zendaya is going to really entertain me if I'm like, hey, Zendaya, I love you. And by the way, when I will dress up as you Halloween, you liked my photo and I talked about it for 45 years. She's going to be like, can you?
Shut the fuck up
Breathe?
and settle down.
I'm going to go, not in your presence.
Not here right now.
No, I cannot.
It's the weed.
The only other thing that happened is Scott really hurt himself. He bruised his rib, which apparently can feel like a broken rib. And
yes, it can.
I have been trying to take care of him because he is such a good caretaker. Like anytime I feel even the slightest bit ill, if I have my period, he's always like, do you need this? Do you need that? I'll go to the store. I'll do this. Like he's just the best. So now that he's hurt, I wanted to take care of him. So I was getting him his beverages. I was making sure his pillows were good. I got him the heating pad. I plug it in, and then as I'm turning around to stand up, I clonked my nose so hard on the corner of the nightstand, I fell to the ground, and I was just laying there crying, not really crying, but tearing, because, you know, when you get hit in the nose really hard, you can tear, and I'm like, oh my God, and Scott's like, are you okay? And I'm like, please don't get up. Please don't get up. I'm trying to take care of you. Do not get up. Of course, he gets up, gets on the ground. He's like, are you okay? And I'm like, I can't believe I just did that. And he looks at me and goes, see, this is why you should not be taking care of me. And I should only be taking care of you. Because this shit never happens to me.
She's going to just be the caretaker, not the caretaker. Caretaker, not the caretaker.
Yeah, that's confusing. But so yeah,
I guess
didn't meet Tom Holland, but saw Tom Holland, and didn't break my nose, but broke my nose.
I shot a Trojan campaign.
Oh yeah,
I forgot about that. So be on the lookout. Cam and I shot a Trojan condom, like social campaign. So I don't know when that's coming out.
Practice safe sex.
Safe sex, baby.
I think we can dive into the topic.
I mean, yeah. We went from really fun and enjoyable stories, and now we're gonna get a little more serious, I think.
Yeah. Hey, but that's what mental health is. You have good days and you have bad days.
You have high highs and low lows.
Yeah. So we got good
They're
stories.
very rare in between. Now we're going low.
It's fine. It's fine. It's fine.
Okay, so where do you want to start this?
We took a week off because we really wanted to just get laser focused and be prepared, prioritize the podcast, everything. But also, we had been just kind of going through our own shit.
Yeah.
Where we just both felt we needed to just be able to figure out what was going on with us, clear our heads, refocus, realign. And that's kind of what sparked the whole inspiration for
mental health
this episode.
Awareness.
Yeah.
Yeah, so like she said, we took a break mostly because we really want to put out something good and meaningful and tangible and a conversation starter. But also because mentally we weren't very invested in the podcast, not because we didn't want to do the podcast. I think there's a lot of other issues going on behind the scenes with people.
Yeah.
I can speak from my own experience. Like I go through high highs, low lows, and sometimes I'll wake up and I'm just overwhelmed with sudden anxiety that I don't know why, what, when, how, where, how to fix it. And so like it was just like one of those weeks that I was feeling really down on myself and had no explanation why. So we kind of wanted to talk about just like the mental health issues, including depression, even ADHD being a part of, you know, someone's mental health. And we'll touch base a little bit on bipolar disorder and stuff like that. But I think the main focus for this is just like dealing with depression, whether you have it or you know someone that has it. And I think for myself, I know I have it. I've dealt with it for a very long time.
Mm-hmm.
And then I think with you, it's more so dealing with people around you that are struggling with their mental health.
Yeah.
Because you overall are pretty happy.
I'm pretty good. My mental health kind of takes a toll when I'm in like when my ADHD kind of feels overwhelming, because then it really pulls out my anxieties. I used to have really bad anxiety growing up. My mom used to call me a worrywart before, I'm 28 now. So when I was younger, mental health wasn't such a conversation being had. So my parents used to always just call me a huge worrywart, when in reality, now looking back at it, I just had severe anxiety. An example that I always think of is my brother's 3 years younger than me, and my parents, it was their third child. They know how to raise children. They know what's okay and what's safe and what's not. So they used to let my brother, when he was maybe 6, 7, 8 years old, probably more like 8, go on bike rides around the neighborhood with his friends, and that would paralyze me with anxiety, because I'd be like, he's gonna get kidnapped, he's gonna get hit by a car. And one night they didn't come back. They always had to come back before the sun went down. One night, him and his friend Jack didn't come home before sundown. So my dad and his dad were like, okay, we're gonna go find him, no big deal, totally not stressed out at all. Because, by the way, I lived in, like, my mom calls it Mayberry. There was barely any crime ever. So my parents were totally sure that they were fine. I was sitting on the couch for an hour, like, hyperventilating, because I thought, that's it, I'm never going to see my brother again. And that's just, it was so weird, but I just had terrible anxiety. So my anxiety only kind of comes in waves now. And it, like I said, it comes more so when I feel really overwhelmed by my ADHD. And going back to what you said about us wanting to take a break, it had nothing to do with us not wanting to do the podcast. It was that we really wanted to make it everything we could. Right. And I think I voice noted you this when we decided we were going to take just 1 week off. I woke up the other morning feeling so overwhelmed that I'm living my life so underwhelmingly. Like, everything that I feel like I'm doing right now, I'm putting in a fraction of my energy that I should. And that, I think, is all stemming from my ADHD, because if I have something to do during the day, even if it's at like 5 p.m., then the whole day's shot. I can't get anything done. Oh, I'm going to think about that. And I can only get that thing done if I'm driven by pure fear, because I'm going to miss the deadline or whatever. And so I'm really trying to figure out how to help my ADHD simmer down. I think the pandemic really brought it out. I think it's brought it out in a lot of people.
I think a lot of people can relate to that, because for me, I've been overwhelmed by how underwhelmingly I've been living my life. Like, and it's also like a thing, this is a completely different topic that we can get into, but like career envy with my boyfriend, who's just succeeding right now. Like, he's doing so well, and I am so incredibly proud. Like, I'm just so happy to be his girlfriend. Like, I'm so proud of him. I am motivated by him, but then I get really overwhelmed with thoughts of, what are those thoughts called? Intrusive thoughts?
Yeah.
I get a lot of intrusive thoughts of like, okay, well, he's doing well, you're sitting on your ass like today. What are you doing? Like, why aren't you making more money? What are you doing with your career? So now I'm in that position where it just happened last week, where I'm like, what the fuck am I doing with my career? Like, what am I doing with my life? And that really weighs heavy on me, because I've always been like able to provide, and like for myself especially. And I'm at kind of a crossroads right now where I'm just like, I'm 31, I'm about to be 32, and I don't have a set career. So it's a little nerve wracking. Yeah. I mean, that's really a different story, and it's aside from the point, but I think a lot of people are going to relate, because they're just, they feel like they're lost.
Yeah. I think that's just, it's all stemming from anxieties of just kind of like the unknown and what am I doing right now? And I do think that the pandemic has caused almost every single person to really look at themselves and see what they're doing. Are they happy or not? And for me, I just got so complacent in doing nothing by just like kind of sitting on the couch and filming a YouTube video here and there, but that was kind of it. And I don't know. I've just gotten into such a rut of not doing anything. And if I do it, I don't even half-ass it. I like quarter-ass it. I just get it done enough so that it's done.
You're in a routine.
Yeah.
Like you're stuck in a routine which you've gotten used to, and that's why switching up a routine and trying to implement something new would help a little bit.
Yeah.
But yeah, the pandemic probably really had a lot of people look within themselves, and a lot of people didn't come out on top from it. Like a lot of people really struggled because you really had to sit with yourself. And I'll tell you now that the beginning of that pandemic, I was a fucking mess. I lived alone. Like, I was a mess. Like, I had been going out and drinking so much prior to this, like just partying. And like, I had to really reevaluate my life and the choices that I've been making. So it was hard, but I feel like I've come out of it fine. Like, I am motivated. I'm ready to go. But I suffer, and I don't want to call it seasonal depression. Maybe it's like atypical depression, where it comes and goes in waves, but I've suffered from it for years.
Yeah.
Like I can't remember a lot of my childhood, and it's not because of some trauma. Like I don't have any fucking childhood trauma, but like for as long as I can remember, at least until middle school, I know that I've suffered through having bouts and spurts of depression. I didn't really understand it, obviously, and I think the older I have grown, like I have more of a grasp on it.
My whole thing is, so yes, I have ADHD, and sometimes I've spoken about this. I love it sometimes because I'm like, oh, it makes me like Dory, where I'm just so funny and all over the place. But sometimes it really fucking sucks and it really struggles. I remember, I feel like 2 months ago, I had a huge breakdown because I had an audition for a role for something that I like was so beyond excited about. And I was studying my lines, going over my lines for over an hour, and I couldn't retain anything. I couldn't even get past the first page. My mind was just so elsewhere. I just had a full breakdown, and Scott had to just sit there and be like, it's okay.
Yeah.
It's okay, because I was like, this is something I want to do so badly, but I can't get my mind to focus, even though this is what I want. And so going back to the podcast, I want this podcast so bad. I have been talking about doing a podcast. I'm so happy that we finally have started it. And I don't know why it's so hard for me to get so driven for it. And it sucks because that's still something that I almost, like, not almost, definitely feel every time we still film. Like even today, I was like, oh, like I'm kind of tired today. And I don't get it because as soon as we start filming, I'm so happy and excited. But right beforehand, I'm like, oh, I don't want to do this. I have anxiety over it. Like, I don't know what I'm going to say, blah, 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 blah. And so for me, that's why I've been, because I'm really trying to transition back into like working normal life, being productive every single day, that I've really started looking for a therapist, because when I did have my anxieties when I was younger, I started seeing a therapist, and just I think talking them out really really helped me. And so I think right now I'm at the point where I've tried enough things to help myself, and it's not helping, so I just need to get a therapist.
Yeah, just like outer help.
Yeah.
Outside help. I mean, yeah, and I think therapy, you know, we can get into that later, but I think even with a therapist, you'll be able to help. He or she will help you schedule like things out, like help you get a routine going, like motivate you to do something like that, and just like understand, like give you some clarity to why things are happening. But you had said something earlier about having ADHD, and you like embrace it, and it's like Dory, and you're all over the place. It's another thing with like depression and things like that. We see so many people like not necessarily glamorizing the idea of depression, but it's a way to cope. We joke about it, you know, like you literally will be like, I'm so fucking depressed today, I'm not gonna do shit, like just like jokingly, but it's because how else are you supposed to handle it? Like I literally see 30 TikToks in 15 minutes of scrolling of people being like, well, today my depression got the best of me, and like they're laughing about it because that's like the easiest way to cope with it, because it's something that, especially something like depression, I don't think you can fully get rid of it. I think
No.
it's something that haunts you forever.
I think so.
I think it's just like how you can get a handle on it and manage it is a way. But depression is like, it's a real thing. And it's so funny because, like I said, I've been suffering through my bouts of depression for as long as I can remember. And I always get so angry when people are like, oh, you can just snap out of it, whatever. I grew up, sorry, Dad, for throwing you under the bus, but I grew up with a dad who doesn't believe that depression is a real thing. Now, mind you, I haven't put myself in therapy. I should have been in therapy. I think it was more so a money thing for a while. I didn't have the funds to put myself in therapy. I also went to therapy when I was younger. My mom put me in therapy. And it was like, I'm pretty positive she was a sex therapist talking to me.
Really?
I'm pretty positive. I remember I was so angry with the situation of going into therapy and being forced into therapy that I just didn't want to be a part of it. So, but there's such a stigma behind not only therapy, but like depression and mental health disorders where the people that don't understand and refuse to understand think it's just this phase.
Yeah.
Like it's like you're an emo kid and you're like, it's just a phase, Mom. Like,
yeah.
But it's not. It's a really, really deep-rooted issue, and I hope that I can bring some clarity to those who don't understand it or are struggling with it. That we can bring clarity to it, and clarity to my father,
Yeah.
who still doesn't understand. He, at least, I mean, sometimes he'll sympathize with me and be like, "I totally get it," and he understands that anxiety is a thing, but he doesn't understand that depression is a thing.
And that's why I think this conversation is going to be really interesting and hopefully helpful for a lot of people, because I don't struggle with depression. I struggle with my anxieties and my ADHD overwhelming me, but I've never been in like a deep depressive state. I've just been in a funk. I always call it a funk because I really genuinely have never dealt with depression the way that I've seen my friends and family deal with it.
Right.
So, kind of what you were just saying of like, if you've never been through it, it's hard to really understand that it is a real thing and how it affects people and how it affects people differently. And I think a big reason why I've changed my mindset on depression. So I've always known depression's a thing, but I think I kind of had the idea that like, oh, we can snap you out of it. We can make you better. And, you know, if you're really happy one day, like you don't really have that bad of depression. And I realized that is just such the wrong way to think of it, that it's not just a matter of like, you can be severely depressed and have moments of happiness and clarity, and then you go back to the dark spot. I just think it's going to be a really interesting conversation because you've dealt with it and are dealing with it, and I have not. So we'll have both perspectives.
Yeah, no, I think this is going to be a really interesting conversation. Also, you don't know a lot of my history with it either.
No.
So, and no one really does. I feel like I'm pretty transparent on social media. I don't really hide a lot of things. So like if I'm feeling some type of way, I will say something about it, but I don't go into like detail or the extent of how I'm feeling or, you know, the things that I do to get out of the way I'm feeling. So
I feel like
I'm like really nervous.
I feel like you
I'm like really nervous to talk about this.
I feel like you're very open on social media and everything, and which I admire so much, but I think that you cope with some things also with humor.
Yes.
And so like even if you are saying something about it, you do add in the humor aspect, which is again totally fair and fine. So many people do. But
then there's people that don't really understand the extent of depression or what it means, that are just like, oh, she's just ha ha ha.
Yeah.
Like I totally get that.
And I think that and even for anybody listening to this who isn't experiencing depression, but someone in their life is, this will, like Shanley's a perfect example. She's totally functioning. She's very okay, but these are things that she's dealing with.
Got some dark things going on.
So you can't, so it's not just a matter of, oh, if you're not constantly depressed, then you're not really depressed.
It's honestly crazy because I have this thing where, and I was actually trying to think this out for a while, where I'll sit in my brain and be like, you're happy today. You're not fucking depressed. Like I'll have inner arguments about the things that I do. So when I get into my depression and what I've done and how I've coped with it, via self-harm. Like there will be moments where I'll be like, I don't need to do this. Why am I doing this?
Mm-hmm.
And then I do it. And then I'm like, I don't have to do it.
Yeah.
Like it's constant back and forth in my brain where I'm like, I don't have a problem. I'm doing this because I chose to do this. Like,
yeah.
But like then for the amount of times that I've done these things or coped with depression, I'm just like, I am sick. Like I am kind of sick. Like I think the more I sit here and argue with myself, like this is valid, this is not valid, and I still do it anyway, I think that's a sign of sickness, which, mind you, I'm going to put myself into therapy. I have the funds to do it. I just haven't done it yet. I know me. Like I know me and I know my experiences. I know some of the reasons that have led up to the things that have caused my depression. But yeah, it's just so strange because like I'm always curious, and I feel like this is why I like TikTok, because then I get like affirmation or reaffirmed that my thoughts, I'm not the only one thinking that way. Yeah. So like there's a lot of people that have like these mental ill health issues, and they'll bring it up being like, am I the only one that thinks this way? And I'm like, no, I do too. Yeah. Like I didn't think anybody thought that way.
Yeah. I think I sent you it. This one guy on TikTok, this guy Christian, he posted a TikTok being like, I feel like a lot of people think that saying they have ADHD is like this cute, quirky thing, when in reality, I can't do anything. Yeah. I can't function. I was reading all the comments, and I was like, oh my gosh, this is me. This is me. This is me. Everybody just saying things that the negative sides of ADHD, because kind of same thing with depression, like just all mental health issues. I do think that the internet
glamorizes it,
and that's fine, because I know I've posted things being not glamorizing it, but kind of poking fun at myself because I'm going through these things. So
it's hard to take it seriously and know what's really going on and what's not. Yeah. So when you see all these other things of people talking about it, it's justifying your feelings in a sense, especially if you're someone who doesn't like talking about how you feel, which I do like talking about how I feel, because as I've stated millions of times, I like listening to myself talk. Yeah. But like there is some inner monologue going on that I'm like, am I the only fucking person that feels this way? Am I fucked up? Like probably I'm fucked up, but like there's so many people that feel, there's millions, billions of people on this earth. Like you're not the only one going through something. Yeah. That's the point I'm trying to make, is that whatever you're struggling with, someone else is struggling with too. Like you are never alone. You might seem alone because it's you going through it, and maybe the other person's on the other side of the fucking world or whatever, but just know that someone else is going through that too. And it's, you're going to figure it out. Like you will figure it out. And, just whatever you're feeling, if you think it's odd, crazy, whatever, you're not alone. Someone else is feeling the same type of way. You're a normal human. You might just have some, what do you call it? Chemical imbalance going on, but
I think that's normal. Really the biggest thing, is even just all mental health, is people think it's just like, oh, you'll be fine, like whatever, you just need to get out of this mood. And no, there's actually a chemical imbalance going on. I do think that you telling just your depression history will be very beneficial.
I can try to go into as much detail as I can. Sorry, Dad, once again, airing out dirty laundry in the family. And something that you're probably not, I'm going to get a phone call afterwards and I'm going to have to deal with it. So I grew up, my family loved me, right? It wasn't a bad growing up at all. Like my dad is my best friend. I love him to death. I got good grades in school. I really, really tried really hard at volleyball. And I did well. Like I got a scholarship, no big deal.
Yeah, you went to school.
I went to school for it. But my parents weren't happy. Not with me, but with each other. And I noticed it when I was really, really young.
And that's hard. That's every kid's biggest fear.
Yeah. It's just I can tell you that I knew my parents. My parents are divorced. They're separated. I knew from probably middle school that my parents were going to get divorced. They didn't get divorced until after I graduated, but I was like old enough to realize that there was something going on that just didn't seem right. I didn't get along with my mom very well. I have a younger brother, and my mom really took to my younger brother, like noticeably took to my younger brother. And this is no offense to my mom, but my mom and I don't have like a close relationship. We talk to each other every once in a while, but it's not like a real mother-daughter relationship. I'm a lot closer to my dad. But my mom definitely favored my brother. I was always in trouble. Not with my dad. My dad just really pushed me to get good grades and like be passionate about volleyball. So he'd get on my ass about that shit and just like normal fucking rebellion kid shit that I would do. But my mom had some sort of resentment towards me. And I think it was just because of the marriage, like not working out. And I always felt it. It was so noticeable. I would get grounded for taking her flip-flops. I would get grounded for using her like eyelash curler. Like,
yeah, like just ridiculous things.
Ridiculous things. Whereas my brother was the angel child who'd never get in trouble. And I remember this one moment where I knew my mom and I's relationship wasn't as great. And this sounds so stupid. It was winter. I'm from Indiana. There's a lot of snow. And I like sitting by fireplaces. I love fireplaces. I remember sitting by the fireplace because I was cold. And the fireplace is big enough for multiple people. I remember my mom looking at me and my brother bitching about like wanting to sit by the fireplace. And my mom said that I had to move so my brother could sit there. Like literally move away from the fireplace.
Like not move over.
Not move over, move. And it was at my neighbor's house. And I was just, I didn't process it until later in life. Like, okay, she did have a favorite.
Yeah.
Like, one, I was an accidental pregnancy. I led to a shotgun wedding, if you will. So it was just all out from there. If you're already getting the whole picture, it was just the demise from there.
From like, the day you were born.
From the day I was born, I led to my parents' divorce. But my brother was planned. So that's why I think my brother, and still is, my mom's pride and joy. No matter how fucked up sometimes that he is, like my brother can do no wrong.
Yeah.
But I was always in the wrong. And not only did I have that pressure from my mom just constantly getting on my ass about everything, I had my dad really pushing for me to do well in volleyball and whatnot and be a good kid, where I think that I kind of just gave up a little bit. I remember I would lock myself into the bath. Like my dad, these are so sad. I'm actually probably gonna cry. I remember my dad getting on me one time about cleaning the bathroom, and it was just such a bad fight. Like we were just yelling at each other. Like I had so much anger and resentment towards my parents when I was younger for obvious reasons, but like also like no reason. I didn't have that confirmation that my parents were not in a good relationship, but like whatever. And I remember I had to clean the bathroom, and I remember locking myself in the bathroom and putting a towel against the door with all the chemicals in there, with the bleach and everything, saying I'm gonna kill myself. Like I remember that specifically.
Was that the first time that you thought about hurting yourself?
I don't know. That's the first time that I specifically can remember, and that was a long time ago. Like
that was in
middle school. I don't remember how often my parents made me clean the bathroom when I was in like high school and shit. So I know it was my younger years. I remember, and I knew that fucking the chemicals weren't gonna kill me, but I was like, I'm gonna do this. I literally shoved a towel under the door, being like, I'm so overwhelmed. I couldn't stop crying. I couldn't figure out how to work through the emotions I was figuring out. So the first thing that came to my mind was, all right, it's been fun. Yeah. These chemicals, I've got a bucket full of them.
Yeah.
And I'm going to sit here. And I just remember my dad just telling me that I was ridiculous. Like that was not going to happen. So that was like the first time that I noticed that I couldn't control my emotions that well. And I had suicidal thoughts. But mind you, I'm going to preface this. I've never actually have intended in my entire life to ever kill myself. Like there's never been a thought where I'm like, you know what? Today's the day. I'm going to off myself. I couldn't do it. I don't want to die. I don't. But I think after that, like I said, I was just constantly grounded, constantly in trouble. I ran away multiple times from my house. Like my home life wasn't even that bad, but looking back on it and describing it is like, it's so strange because it was kind of a broken household in a sense. Like my parents were going to get divorced, and speak of the devil, my dad just texted me as I'm talking about this. But I just had a lot of pressure on me, I think. I kind of put that on myself, one, because I was so good in school. Like I was so passionate about school. I loved getting good grades. And then, you know, the older my brother got, the more he was kind of getting commended for the things that he was doing, and he was just a straight A, like wouldn't touch anything bad type of person, like just this little angel. And I would get in trouble, and then my trouble turned into like, I'm gonna start rebelling because this isn't fair that I'm getting in trouble because I'm the only one doing these things and my
You
brother
started
is not.
feeling like nothing I'm doing is right. Nothing I'm doing is getting praised. I don't have to do right things anymore.
Yeah. So, and I just really, like I said, I was so resentful towards how I was being treated, and I felt like I needed to lash out. And, you know, my parents' relationship was still slowly sinking in high school. I think it was my freshman or sophomore year of high school. We went on vacation, me, my mom, and my brother. My dad didn't go, and I never really processed that.
Yeah.
Like, I never really thought about why my dad didn't go. I didn't get along with my brother at all. I still don't really get along with Aiden. That's his name. Shout out Aiden. We do sometimes. It's really hard to understand each other. I know he suffers through a lot of mental health issues that he is in denial about. I mean, the divorce didn't take a toll on me. It took a toll on him because I was prepared. I was ready for it. But going back to sitting in the bathroom having suicidal thoughts, I remember, I think it was 8th grade, to be honest. I'd just gotten on a club volleyball team, made new friends, and was really excited about it. I just wish I could remember what set me over the edge. I'm sure it was just another argument, another overwhelming emotion that I had to deal with. Like, when I get upset, I've learned to control it more, but when I get upset, I'm just like, I'm getting like punched everywhere on my body, if that makes sense. Like, I don't know where to look, don't know where to sit, don't know where to say ow, like when to say ow. It's just like boom, 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 boom. My head's like brains ricocheting around in my head. Like, I'm just so overwhelmed that I see red. And I'm like my dog at the dog park. Like, when Dugan gets cornered, he just lashes out. Yeah. He doesn't know what he's lashing out about, but he does. And like, I know he sees red too, because when I grab him to go like pull him away, he's still like freaking out because he has like some sort of film over his eyes. And that's the best way I can describe the amount of anxiety and the amount of, you know, bad thoughts, intrusive thoughts, everything that goes through my head all at once. I'm just so completely overwhelmed. And there was an instance where this had happened, and I remember thinking, you know what? I'm going to try it. I don't know what led me to do it, but I grabbed a knife from my kitchen and I just sliced up my arm. Not in a way where it was like damaging, but I had like really shallow cuts on my arm, and I was just starting to play volleyball. And I remember going to volleyball. It was in the most obvious spot, and I remember people pointing it out. Thinking, what's that? Oh, my cat. Like, it was only sticking out enough to be like, oh yeah, it's my cat. Yeah, you could hide it, and since it was your first time. Yeah, I didn't do any damage, but I knew after I did that I was calm. That I looked at myself and I was like, why would you do that? But then in my head I wasn't going crazy. Like, I got a grip on my emotions. Like, I finally was like, okay, breathe. Yeah. So that kind of stuck with me for a while. That feeling of like, just relief. Like, you're so overwhelmed, and then you did this one thing, and now it's calmer. Yeah. It was like you had control on that one thing. It was a sense of relief. And so I kept doing it. Every time I got overwhelmed, I would do it. And it was nothing crazy. It was just like, you know, little thin, shallow slices. And I was smarter. Like, I would do it in places that would be harder to find. And because it was like this, like, mutifier, you know, like, it muted my emotions, I just became somewhat dependent on it, to the point where the shallow cuts didn't do anything for me anymore. And I remember, and I will post pictures or whatever so you guys have reference. There's a very large scar on my right leg. By your hip. By my hip. Like, a very, very, very large scar. One that I should have probably gone to the hospital for to get stitches. And I also can't remember what triggered me to do that, but I broke a razor, and I took it and I squeezed my skin and drug it. Like, this is, like I said, trigger warning. I drug it all the way across and then looked, and then I started crying again because of how much damage I had done to myself. And not because it hurt me, because I was like, how the fuck am I supposed to hide this? I'm bleeding everywhere. And I blamed it And my dad will probably, this is the one that my dad will be like, that's what the fuck that was. I had a volleyball tournament afterwards, and it stuck out of my shorts because it was so long. And I said, because at the time I had a dresser that the knobs come off, and I put books up top on this little platform thing on my dresser, and I would climb up to grab them. I said that I had put my foot up on the dresser to lift myself up and slipped into one of the knobs that weren't on there, and that's what cut me. Whereas it was from my own doing.
Yeah.
And for a while, for years, and probably still to this day, some of my friends will be like, the fuck? You lied this whole time?
Yeah.
I like stuck with that story, you know, because obviously self-harm is one, drastic and looked down upon and frowned upon, but also it was just like, it was really hard for me to fathom the idea of me being so, I don't want to say fucked up in the head, because that's not true. I'm not fucked. I mean, I probably am, but like, for me to think like this is the way out, like this is your way out of feeling this type of way. Like, why did I think self-harm was the thing?
Well, you know what's so interesting to me is how you were saying that when these feelings would come over you, you'd see red and it was just all this craziness. And then when you would self-harm, it would kind of recenter you. Just now you're talking about the times you cut yourself, but you cannot remember what triggered you because that's how much your emotions had just taken over you, that like you don't even know what was the reason why you did the big one on your hip, but you clearly remember doing it.
Yeah.
But the reasoning is just, you were blacked out with these emotions.
So much emotion. Yeah. And I've been doing it. I mean, mind you, I've had a few slip ups as an adult. But I wouldn't want to say that. I haven't had a few slip-ups. I've had slip-ups. Like, in my most recent years, maybe one slip-up. But other than that, I've kind of gotten a little control on it. And Cam knows about it. So, like, if he sees that I'm overwhelmed with emotion, he's there.
Yeah.
Like, you know, he's there to, like, calm me down. I think a lot of the times I felt really alone, you know, and that was, like, my only coping mechanism. But as the years went on, just like that one, because I had done it and it was to that extent and that bad, that's how all the other ones happened. Now, because like you get, and I make it sound like it's an addiction, because it might be some sort of addiction, but it's like getting a taste of alcohol and then it's never enough. You want more and more. Like how I'm smoking weed, I want to smoke more and more and more because I'm not high enough.
Yeah.
Whereas cutting yourself or self-harm, you do it a little at a time and then realize that little bit isn't doing you.
It's not relieving you enough.
So I think, because I get a lot of, you know, if I post any like provocative photos in like bra and underwear on my Instagram, a lot of people ask what the scars are. But I have, the most of my damage has been my upper thighs. I have very thick, at least no less than an inch long scars on my upper thighs. And I got smart about it, kept them on my upper thighs, and I realized I'm a dumbass. I'm wearing bathing suits and stuff. So then I started doing it like on the inside of my hip, like where my underwear would cover it, or on my ankles, like where my socks would cover it.
Nobody was really looking.
And yeah, and a lot of people think that like self-harm is just this like, oh, they're doing it, they're slitting their wrists, they're gonna kill themselves. And there are so many reasons behind the reason why people harm themselves. And I can't speak for everybody, but I can speak for myself. Whereas it's just like I said, in an overwhelming moment, I had this like short moment of control.
Yeah.
Like I did this to myself. I can focus on this. Fuck the thoughts that are going on in my head. I'm here. I'm present. It brought me back to reality. And it's something that I've dealt with, and it's just something that I've got to live with. There are scars all over my body.
Yeah.
Like, and I don't think it's taboo. I don't think it's something to be like looking at and being like, that person's fucked up for cutting themselves. That's not how you should look at depression or self-harm. And I hope my dad doesn't look at me like I'm fucked up in the head. He's going to put me in a psychiatric ward, because that's not it. And it's really hard for me to even talk about this. So I'm like trying to form my thoughts and put it into words.
I feel like a big thing with self-harm, which is so scary, is exactly what you said is, and I'm definitely not speaking because I have never self-harmed, but I do know some people who have, and it's always been, I didn't want to kill myself. It was just a way to control my feelings. It was the only way I felt instant control over what I was feeling. But because in movies and TV shows, if someone's cutting themselves, you automatically think they're suicidal.
Yeah.
So people don't talk about it. And had you, the first time you cut yourself, been like, oh my gosh, I need to talk about this, and not worried about being judged, you would have talked about it, and maybe you would have never cut yourself again because you would have gotten the right treatment.
Right. Here's where a little fun tidbit. My mom, I was 16. I remember the year because it's when I lost my virginity. It was the time of my life that I was truly rebelling. Like, I was just like, fuck my parents. Like, fuck this. Like, you're too strict on me. Like, I'm going to do whatever I want. So I lost my virginity. Literally lost my virginity over bet. That's how fucking messed up my brain was in high school, because I was just like, I don't want to listen to what my parents have to say and whatnot. But I remember my mom and I think it was because she caught me smoking a cigarette out. I'm stupid. Like, out on my roof, right outside my window. Like, it wasn't going to fucking travel into the house. And we got into a big argument, and she was just like saying, like, you don't ever tell me anything, blah, blah, blah. And I laid it all out on the table. I was like, I'm not a virgin. I cut myself. My mom knew.
Oh, wow.
Hence the therapy.
Okay.
Hence the shitty sex therapist that she put me in, who told me to keep a dream journal. I mean, come on. Like, yeah, I have interesting dreams, but that's probably not what I needed at the time.
That's not what's causing my mental health.
No, it was just
issues.
A scapegoat for my mom to not have to deal with me.
Yeah.
Because she didn't know how. And that's okay. It's, but I specifically remember being put into therapy for that. I don't even know if she even listened that I was really self-harming. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't even know if that's what she was like, you got to go to therapy. I think it was more so like, you're shithead, go to therapy.
Yeah.
So I was very resentful for being put in therapy at 16 years old. Like, I didn't know. Like, there's a stigma in therapy. And I think that it's a thing that's till this day where people look at therapy as like someone trying to tell you how to live your life and what to do.
Like, how do they know what I'm going through unless they've been through it themselves?
Yeah. I totally understand that viewpoint, but I also am aware of what a therapist and a psychiatrist or anybody can help you with. They're not there to tell you how to live your life. They're there to give you some fucking clarity and like help you get to a path that
figure
you
out.
Yeah. So yes, I'd like to look into therapy, but I definitely, this is just not something that I've wanted to talk about. I mean, it's hard because I still get questions, like from friends that I haven't even shared it with, where like, what's that scar from? Why do you have scars there? What's this?
Yeah.
Which is not fun to have to answer. Like, when people point out your scars, I mean, mine, I think, are a little obvious.
I mean, I'm going to be honest here. As soon as I saw you without your pants on, I've obviously noticed the scars, but because I do have family members that have done that, I just would never ever be like, what is that?
See that, and
I could tell, but I was waiting until you would want to talk to me about it.
And it's not anything. No offense to anybody that's like, what are those scars? Because like some people just don't understand.
Some people don't know.
It's hard for someone to come up to you and be like for my entire high school career, me lying about that scar on my leg, like I climbed my dresser and like I was so dead set on that lie. That was the same thing I told every time. Like, no, I didn't skip a beat. Like, I was like, this is my excuse and this is what it is. But it's so hard for someone to come up and ask you, like, what are those scars from? Because one, if I tell you that I was cutting myself, you're gonna fucking freak out and be like, you need to go. You need help. Like, you need fucking help. Or two, then it's like they pity you.
Yeah.
Or three, they don't understand at all.
Exactly.
And it's really hard to like navigate through that. And that's why I've kept it to myself. And I think is another reason that I kept doing it was because I didn't have anybody to talk to. Like you had said, like I was pretty alone on that. And I did feel taboo to me. Like, you tell someone and they're like, you're fucked up, man. Like, but I'm not. Like, I have some screws loose maybe in my head and I'm trying to deal with them. And this was the way I figured out how to deal with it. I didn't have anybody telling me any otherwise.
Yeah.
And I wasn't aware that I had to get help, you know?
Mm-hmm. I feel like almost too, I know that anytime I've ever felt, or when I was younger at least, felt some sort of way, I almost would second guess talking about it or telling someone my issue because, and especially I can only assume with self-harm, they're not even going to hear what you're so upset about. They're just going to take away like, oh, you're self-harming, and So everything that's causing you to get to that point doesn't matter. It's out the window.
Yeah.
And so for me, if I'm like when I was younger and I was just like freaking out over nothing, like the only thing that my mom would focus on is like just being like, you're fine, calm down, not actually addressing
the issue that was at hand. Yeah.
Yes. And my mom definitely is an amazing woman and has helped me through so much. But again, especially when mental health wasn't such a big open conversation. So
it's the same with my dad too. Like, he still doesn't understand that it's a thing. And like I said, I'm going to get a call after this.
I know a lot of people don't think mental health is this super serious thing. Even, I mean, right now in the world, my sister is a social worker. She's a therapist, and she sees all the time people just not getting the treatment for
we should
the mental
have
health.
her on.
Yeah.
She's a
I mean,
therapist.
she's so smart. Every time I have any kind of problem, I talk to her. But she's the first one to tell you that mental health is not a priority. I mean, my sister has literally saved the lives of so many young kids because she used to work at an at-risk hospital. And my sister can barely pay her bills every single month.
That's ridiculous.
Because she gets paid shit. Because mental health is just, we want everybody to be taken care of on their mental health, but the people who are actually doing it.
Well, the shit that we prioritize as a country is fucking
I know.
Embarrassing.
Yeah.
To be quite frank.
To
be quite frank, it's fucking embarrassing.
Very true.
We talk about things and we're not about it. You know what I'm saying?
So like everyone talks about how mental health is so important, but then when it comes down to it,
we get a
like,
mental health awareness month.
Yeah.
Like that.
No, how about instead of making a whole month, you actually like start paying your people that are saving these people's lives the money that they deserve and make programs for people who need it, who can't afford it, whatever. But
I don't remember what I was saying. Oh, I was just saying, like, my dad has been the most supportive of me. Like, my dad, like I said earlier, my dad's my best friend, and he knows a lot about my life.
Yeah.
There's things that he doesn't know just because, like, my biggest fear is disappointing my dad. Initially, back in the day in high school, I was like, I don't fucking care. But, like, the older I've gotten, the more I've cherished my relationship with my dad. Whereas, like, anything that I do is, like, in the back of my head, I'm like, am I going to disappoint my dad?
Yeah.
I don't want to disappoint my dad ever. I love you, Dad. So me seeking, like, the help that I probably should have went out to look for, I just didn't understand at that point. There was no one there. And I think, and the older I've gotten, the more I've known, you know, like, I can recall most of the incidents that caused me to self-harm. I can even talk about briefly, there's a chunk on the scar right here on my finger. Now you guys can't see it, but there's like a giant chunk of scar in my top knuckle. And this was dealing with my ex, so that one was really bad. My first boyfriend in LA was a very emotionally abusive boyfriend. Like, really emotionally abusive. And I went and kind of, regressed, and self-harm started happening again. And I remember specifically being in my apartment, in the bathroom. I shared this apartment with my friend Dylan. And I just was overwhelmed in the bathroom, bawling my eyes out, couldn't figure it out because we were in some sort of fight that he just made me feel terrible about for no reason. He always flipped it over onto me and made me feel really bad. And it was hard because I had just moved out to LA and didn't have a lot of friends. You know, my friends were his friends and whatnot. So, like, navigating through all that was crazy. And so once again, I was in a position where I was so overwhelmed by a lot of my emotions that I was, took out a razor in the bathroom and went to go. So my technique was taking razor blades, actual razors, like, shave with. And I would take tweezers and lift it under the top lip and pull it off so that the blades would come out.
Yeah.
First of all, the fact that I don't have tetanus or
I know.
some shit is incredible because I wasn't taking, like, brand new razors. I was literally taking my fucking razors and being like, you know what, this is it. And I went to go do that this time and my hand slipped. The tweezers slipped up and my finger went straight into that razor. I had legitimately a chunk, like, my finger looked like someone took a bite out of it. I ran out screaming bloody murder. And I was like, I'm not doing that again. Like, I'm in my head, not to Dylan because he didn't know, but, like, in my head, I was like, I'm never going to do that again. That was a sign. Like, don't do it. I've reverted back to it other times and other occasions, but it was just really hard because I had no one to talk about it with. And the point I'm trying to make is that Cam, and I don't know if I'm like airing out his dirty laundry, but has also known what it's like with self-harm and like dealing with depression and whatnot. And I think he's the first person I truly have spoken to about it who understands the extent and the idea behind it. Whereas I think now when I'm overwhelmed by emotion, I don't think about it. First of all, now I don't think about it because I'm like, I don't want to disappoint Cam. Cam sees my naked body. Like, he's going to see it. And then he'd be like, why? You had me to talk to.
Yeah.
So it helps to have somebody to talk to. And I think because Cam's been in my life, mind you, I haven't touched myself like that, not touched myself. I haven't cut myself in maybe 2 years.
Wow.
Maybe less than that. At the beginning of the pandemic, I did. And that one was a pretty hard thing to cope with because I did it in such a spot that it was on my ankle. You can see it. This on my ankle. And I remember going to my friend Cam's house and I didn't realize that my Band-Aid, it like just fucking drenched through my Band-Aid and whatnot. And it was all over my jeans, all over my feet. I didn't even like notice. And then Cam saw and just, I think Cam was just so like taken aback by it and like so concerned with my mental health, which as he should have been, because I was at a really low point at the beginning of the pandemic, like really, really fucking scary low. Like I said, I've never had the intention of ever killing myself or those like thoughts since then, but like I just was going through it. Like I couldn't get a grip on my emotions and stuff. And I think after that, seeing my friends react to seeing what I've done, because it's so, there's such a stigma around it, I think they were just like scared for me. Yeah. And it was, and I understand. I totally understand. I appreciate my friends being concerned, but it wasn't to the point where I'm like, you need to be scared for me in my life. Like it was just, I don't know. I've never had a I didn't even have a conversation with Cam about it afterwards, but that was probably the last time that, you know, I lost my job at the pandemic. Like a lot of people did. I was home alone by myself. We were in lockdown. I was in my fucking home.
It was a lot. It was a lot.
So yeah, I don't really have anything else to add to my self-harm. Is that it's just a learning process for me, and it was never, I've never had the intention of like really hurting myself, but it was a coping mechanism. And I want people to know that like that's a thing, that's a mentality to have. Not saying self-harm is okay, like it's not, like you should not do that. I should never have done it. Like I have to live with, like I said, live with it all my life. Like it's on my body, it's scars. I have to get the scars removed. I've got fucking deep ass scars, and it's not something I can hide for that long anymore. Like people are gonna ask about it. It's embarrassing. It's hard to like deal with. It's hard to confront like your demons constantly for other people to know, because that's the most obvious thing of depression for me, is that I wear it on my body. I literally wear it on my sleeve. Like it's really hard for me to confront those demons, not only with myself, but having to explain it to someone that doesn't understand that. Because like you say I'm cutting myself, people are like, you need to go to the hospital, like this is this and this is that, but that's not how it is for me.
Well, I feel like that's why you kind of sharing your story is so important for people to hear, because anyone who's going through not exactly, but what you are going through, in the sense of it was just a form of relief or control, not to actually really hurt yourself, and letting people who have never done that and think that if someone hurts themselves, it's in order to kill themselves, to let them know that that's not it, that it's not always. Depression presents itself, all mental health issues present themselves differently in every person, and how people react to their mental health issues is different in every person. And so you being able to comfortably share your story about it and say like, listen, I was not trying to kill myself, it was just the only way I could get relief. I really hope that people listening,
I also hope that those listening trying to find a way out, that's not the way either.
Well, that's what I was trying to get to, is that they hear this and they're like, okay, So people like me who's never been through it can realize like, okay, so if I know someone who's going through it, like I can't just assume, oh my God, like I need to frantically react and push them into a hospital. Like it doesn't mean they're going to kill themselves if they're on their own. And then for people who are doing it, there are better ways.
There's better ways.
You don't have to be afraid to come clean about, hey, I've been hurting myself, because we are living in a world where people are really understanding mental health more.
Yeah, no, mental health is more prevalent. People are aware of what is going on with people and more understanding of it in the sense. And there's so many other options, therapy, just self-help books, things like that, and your friends. Like, I think that's another thing we can get into is like dealing with people around you, or dealing with yourself having depression and being around you, around other people. You just need to have good people in your corner that you can trust and you can talk to and that can help you through it, that aren't judging you. I think that was my biggest issue growing up, is that the judgment of it. And that was such a stigma back in the day. Depression itself, I barely even knew what it was. Like, I didn't know anything about it. Like we said, it's more prevalent these days. But like back in the day, I didn't know what I was really going through or like what was going on with my brain. And the only way that I figured out to cope with it is self-harm and what I did. And my point of that is like, this is not it. Do not. Like, if you are doing it, I understand you. Like, I understand you. I get it. I'm not ashamed of you. But if you are feeling some type of way and think that's like, as someone who's not a self-harmer in the first place, if you think that's the way you should go, don't do it. Like, just don't. Like, take another route. Find other ways to cope. Self-harm. I'm not promoting self-harm. Not once will I ever promote self-harm. No. I am ashamed, honestly, of me treating my body like this. I'm not promoting it. I don't like walking around with scars. I don't like coming up with lies for people. I don't like lying to my parents. I don't like my dad now just gonna probably be hearing about this. It's not something that I wish upon anybody. So I'm not here to promote self-harm. I'm just here to say that I've been through it. I understand it. There's better ways. There's better ways to help with depression, more professional ways that your friends can help you with. Self-harm is not the way to go. But I wanted you guys to know that despite what you see on social media, despite this confidence that I walk around with constantly, I have dark things in my brain. I go through a lot of things. I had a rough growing up, not because of really much aside from the fact that I didn't have the resources to deal with the things that I should have, but it's not all rainbows and fucking butterflies and I'm just like an influencer on Instagram and I fucking look pretty sometimes. Like, it's not. Like, I 5 times, actually every day of the week, usually until it's the day that I want to take pictures, I don't wear makeup. I'm just in like oversized t-shirt and sometimes not feeling motivated and feeling really lazy. And I know that's when my depression's kind of like coming back to haunt me for a little bit, like this past week. Hence the fact I say it's seasonal, because I'm acutely aware of my mood changes. Like, I know I've dealt with it for so long that I know why, not necessarily why I'm feeling the way I'm feeling, but what's the underlying, like it's depression. Like, I know that I can't get out of that funk in my head, and that my chemical imbalance is very real. So, but like when I was saying earlier, it's like having friends around you, or like knowing how to deal with someone with depression is, I just think people need to be more understanding rather than pointing fingers, rather than trying to diagnose somebody. Like, obviously educate yourself. Like, if you don't know anything about depression and you know that someone around you might be suffering through it, educate yourself so that you can be there for them.
Yeah. So like, I actually, not too long ago, Scott has dealt with his mental issues, mental health forever. It's something that he makes his music about and everything. But, he's been going through a lot recently. And because I have not dealt with those type of feelings, I took the way he was acting so personally. Like, if he was just wanted to be alone, didn't want to, like, he came into where we are right now and took a nap here, even though I was laying in our bed, because he just needed some space. And it wasn't even necessarily from me. It was just in general. He just needed to be alone to just decompress. And I took it so personally. I came into this room. I woke him up by yelling at him and being like, I can't believe you'd rather be in here than with your girlfriend. Like, blah, blah, blah. I slammed the door in his face. And this poor boy had just woken up, had no idea why I was yelling at him. And I just was so mad because I was like, wow, like, if you're going through something, don't you want to be with me, your girlfriend who loves you and supports you? And that was so selfish of me. And then, like, I think maybe that same night we got into a tiff because he just was going through something, and I wasn't seeing him and what he was going through. I was seeing how it was making him act and taking it so personally. So we had gone into just this like huge fight, and we don't fight like that. So he knew how I was reacting was not the right way because it has led to this huge fight. So then I actually reached out to Shanley because I know that she knows how to handle someone who is going through depression way more than I clearly did. And she just gave me such great advice of, you can't take it personally how someone's reacting because something's going on with their mental health. It is not your fault, and it's not supposed to make you feel bad. And by feeling bad about it, I was making it about me. And that's so ridiculous because it wasn't about me. I was okay. I was worried about Scott, but then by Scott being feeling whatever he was feeling, I was like, yeah, okay, so I know you're feeling that way, but you're making me feel this way. And that's just so bad. And that's why all it was a fight. As soon as Shanley gave me the advice of like, you need to take yourself out of the equation and just realize he's going through something, and you need to just be there to support it and talk to him and not argue with him, let him speak his feelings, validate him, it will resolve the issue. So I turned around and I just looked at him and I said, I'm so sorry. I have been so selfish. I've taken everything that you're going through and just took it personally and said, oh, well, if you're feeling these things, how could you be happy with me? Or you're not clearly not happy with me or whatever. And he just looked at me and thanked me and was like, thank you. And then finally got to just speak openly and like freely without judgment, because every other thing he had been saying, I was like, well, blah, 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 because I was just taking it so personally, and it was so unfair of me because, I mean, if I had not messaged you, I don't know what would have happened with me and Scott, because our fight was getting that bad because he clearly was feeling so unseen and unheard because he's going through these things and he can't even talk about them without being attacked.
Yeah. I mean, those are two of like the hardest things as a person who is depressed. Feeling judgment from somebody else because you can't explain the way you're feeling to them is really hard to process, and just adds to like you become a recluse.
Why you don't
hold
talk
it in,
about
you don't
it.
talk about it, you're upset, you're angry, you don't feel safe.
Yeah.
You lash out when you lash out, and that's it. But even as someone like yourself who doesn't have depression, it's really hard to deal with somebody with depression. Even though I have depression, Cam suffers from it too. Like he goes through his little bouts of depression too, or his episodes. And it's hard for me not to take it personally as well, even though I'm very much aware that I don't need to take it personally.
Yeah.
But sometimes there's this neglect on the actual relationship that's really hard to process, because you're doing everything in your power, like that you're capable of doing, to make sure that your relationship is good and he's happy. And sometimes you feel like you're not getting anywhere, and it's not your fault. But sometimes you do take it personally, because you're like, well, what do? I want you to be happy. I want to do all this for you. And if I can't do that, who is? Or is it me? Is it this? Is it that? And it's really hard to deal with people that have mental health issues. And no offense, it's hard, because as somebody, even with mental health issues, it's like, I've always been the provider. I said this earlier. I want to provide. I want to be able to help you, help yourself. And sometimes it's really hard to realize that, you know what, the best help that you can give someone is just to be there.
Yeah.
To be an ear for them to talk to, like someone who just wants to be heard, where you're not diagnosing their issues.
Yeah.
And I'm really bad at that. I'm really like, I consider myself some sort of therapist. Like I feel like I'm pretty wise.
You fucking saved us a ginormous long argument.
I've been through a lot, and I've also said this, like the first thing, like this podcast is going to be a lot of things that we've gone through. I've been through a lot, and depression and self-harm is one of those things where it helps me remove myself from the situation with Cam sometimes, and I look at it and I'm like, I get what you're going through.
Yeah.
I think that the hardest thing about that though is when you're dealing with somebody who's going through depression, you have to look at how much you can do and provide until you can't do anything anymore.
Yeah.
You have to know when you have to remove yourself, because someone else's mental health, if they're not actively discussing it or trying to get help or aware of their mental health and just shit on everything around them, including a great relationship,
Yeah.
then you have to know when to remove yourself, because it's going to affect your mental health.
Yeah.
Like,
there's like it's
a very thin line of trying to figure out when you need to remove yourself from a situation because you care so much about people.
Yeah.
But there is a point where you're going to have to look at assess the situation and be like, there's no coming out of this for both of us, and it's just going to start draining me. And if you're not going to get the help that you need, then I have to go. Like, I'm doing all that I can for you, and then I have to go. But a lot of the times when you just are understanding and you're there for somebody, then
that's enough.
That's enough for them. They feel comfortable, they feel heard, they feel seen, and they can kind of navigate through their depression, whereas it's not affecting the relationship, more so like on their own self. Like,
yeah,
I'm not gonna fucking aim it at everyone else and like affect the people around me, whereas some people don't even know how to do that. Like for me though, every time I'm feeling that, there's one moment that I came over to your house one day and I was in the worst mood and I was just like, I'm going home. It was the night that I think Nick and it was a while ago.
Oh, I remember.
It was at your old place.
I think we went to Jimmy Kimmel.
Oh, yes, that's right.
We went to Jimmy Kimmel.
I went to Jimmy Kimmel to
and
see
Shia LaBeouf was on it.
And then I was depressed.
You still, it
I couldn't get out. I couldn't get out of it. So I removed myself from the situation. Yeah. I went home early. I know when I
remember that because guess what? When you left, I literally... because was Alex there when you left? Yeah, I remember you left and I looked at Alex and I was just like, damn, like I thought we had such a fun day. Like I wonder what's going on, because I don't experience depression myself. So I just was like, oh, like took it not offensively, but like
you were just confused.
I was just like, oh, okay, like thought we had a fun day, blah, blah, blah. And like, because I wasn't even really looking to understand what was going on.
Yeah.
But had I actually been like, okay, this is not anything about anything that's happened today. It is something going on just with Shanley.
I think I've looked at it in the sense of like, I don't want to burden anybody with what's going on. I'll try my best until I can't do it. And then I just remove myself from the situation, which has made it hard in my relationship because I can't really remove myself. So I know I affect some things with my mental health. And I also really, and I said that we were going to mention bipolar disorder earlier, because I don't really know much about it. I haven't done my research on it, but I do know that it runs in my family.
Mm-hmm.
And I do know that I have these mood swings, like these crazy mood swings that I'm very, very aware of them happening.
Mm-hmm.
That I kind of want to get checked out for it a little bit, because I know that I'll be like totally fine and bubbly and ready to go somewhere. And then I get in a car, I'm dead silent. Like I'm so angry. I'm so resentful of nothing. Like literally just can feel my blood boiling, just being like, I want to get the fuck out of this car.
Yeah.
Like fuck this.
I mean, there's that episode of Modern Love on Amazon.
Say Grey's Anatomy.
No. Modern Love on Amazon Prime,
Mm-hmm.
and it's Anne Hathaway's episode.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, that's basically it. She's like in this La La Land like dream type of thing where she's frolicking around the grocery store and she meets this wonderful man who asks her on a date, and she goes home, she's getting ready for it, and she looks in the mirror to put mascara on, and she just is like, no, 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 and she just drops. And I recommend that episode to everyone because it really made me be like, oh my God, like that's what it feels like for someone who's going through that.
It's also crazy with someone going through it to see things like that, like it on movies and stuff, because it validates the way you feel. But I also am just like, sometimes like with her situation, I look at him like, that's so extreme. And then by looking at that being like, that's extreme that someone can feel like that, it kind of makes me feel like what I'm feeling isn't as valid. Does that make sense? That's how fucked up in my head I am.
Like if it's not as bad as
because then I'm like,
you're seeing, then it's
then I'm like, do I have a problem? Like, are people gonna be like, get over it? Like that's a constant battle in my head, is like, I know that some of the things that I go through aren't as drastic as a lot of things that other people are going through, and when I see other people going through those things, I'm like, it's invalid. My feelings are invalid. Well, it's just a fucked up way to think.
That's what I was going to say. I feel like that's kind of the whole stigma around mental health, is mental health issues present themselves differently in every single person. So just because yours might not be quote unquote as bad as the person next to you doesn't mean you shouldn't talk about it. Doesn't mean that you need to just suck it up. And like Scott, like, he can be going through something and he just is like, no, I'm okay. I'm going to get through it. Like, I don't have it as bad as so many other people. Like, I'm okay. And I'm like, but that doesn't matter. You're still going through something. Yeah. So let yourself go through it.
Isn't it crazy to think that like we're sitting here thinking mental health, not you, but me in my brain thinking mental health is a competition almost? Like, that just goes to show that I have mental health issues, is that I'm looking at it like someone who has worse mental health issues than me. I'm like, well, then mine are kind of fucked. I'm not there. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? That's so stupid to look at it that way.
I mean, I think that's how a lot of people look at it. I think that a lot of people look at their mental health of like, oh, it's not that bad until it is too bad.
But it's also just like, when they look at it like that, where it's not that bad, then it just makes you feel kind of like ridiculous. Like, you're embarrassed that, oh, you had a slip up today. Like, you feel this type of way. Well, everybody else has it worse than you. Like, fuck your feelings. Like, it's just a constant battle. And it's so like fucked, because like mental health is such a thing, so much so that like me just speaking about it right now is like, I'm realizing a lot of things in the way I think is almost ridiculous. Yeah. Like, I can't help but think those ways. And it just kind of regresses back to like how I grew up and whatnot. But also my mental health affects the way I view life too, in some aspects, and how hard I am on myself. And all of that, it contributes to so many factors.
That's why I want everyone to know that no matter what you're going through, whether you think it's big or small, it's valid, and talk to the people you need to talk to and take the measures you have to take, because everything in life, like everything you do, affects your mental health, your job, your friends, where you live, your relationship, something you see online, everything and anything can affect you. So every single person on earth has some sort of mental health issue. It's a fact. It's life.
There's different extremes of it, like,
and feeling that you have to like go through it by yourself, or because it's not that bad, or you're embarrassed to talk about it. That's just like that's not it. That's not the way you're supposed to live your life. You're like, if you are going to be open about what you're going through and you feel judged by the people around you, try to educate them. And if they still are not listening and just judging you, drop them.
Yeah, those are bad flies, man.
Yeah.
I think that's why I really wanted to do this episode. One, I haven't talked about it publicly. Two, I just feel like a lot of people can feel the same way, or are feeling the same way as I have been feeling, or have gone through some of the things that I have been going through. And I want you to feel safe. Yeah. And like heard, because it's nice to talk about it, but I wish I also had this when I needed it, you know? Like,
had you imagine when you were younger and close to self-harming yourself and you had heard two women who, I mean, I hope you guys think we look like we have it together, two women that seemingly have it all great and together talk about their own issues and their own things that they've done that they wish they would have talked about before doing.
yeah.
I genuinely believe that could have opened your eyes to a whole new perspective of, okay, you know what? I'm not going to do this. I'm going to actually talk about it. And I'm going to find someone I could talk to. And
yeah, I think starting out at a young age and like back in the day, we've come a long way as a society about mental health. But like back in the day, it was a tough time for someone like me who felt like I had no one in my corner to talk about things like that, where I just thought I was a really damaged, fucked up kid, but had no way of expressing it except running away and partying.
I mean, even now, I will talk to some people on Twitter or via Instagram DMs, and they'll say like, oh, I have really bad anxiety, but like my parents won't put me in therapy. They think like I'm just going to get over it and I don't know what to do and da da da. So I know that people still do struggle with what we kind of struggled with when we were younger of people not
because
taking
we have
you
our parents.
seriously.
Our parents are just like, it's just never been a thing for them.
Yeah.
Like now, our generation and on, like the mental health world is going to change.
I think so too. And I mean, there's still shitty people out there that are like, meh, get over it.
Yeah.
But I have done 2 brand deals for 2 separate therapy
One, I
sites.
see it all the time. The whatever.
The Cerebral.
Yeah, I see it all the fucking time.
Yeah.
It's the only ad that shows up on my Instagram.
Cerebral and BetterHelp. They're both online therapy websites that you basically pay a monthly fee and you get a therapist that you can talk to. And I genuinely cannot recommend those enough to people who either just can't afford to pay $150 per therapy session, or if your parents are not taking you seriously and you want to take your mental health seriously. I'm pretty positive it's like $20 to $30 a month, which I know still can be expensive for people, but mental health is a priority.
It's
so
important.
if you feel that the people around you are not taking you seriously, like there are other outlets where you can still address what's going on with you before you take drastic measures.
Yeah. Yeah. And I want you guys to be comfortable with talking to us. Now, by no means can we be your therapist. I am not even good enough to be my own therapist, but like,
well, you should never be.
you know, I would hope that you guys feel comfortable. I do want to know, like, I just want to know. Like, I want to know what you're going through. I want to know if you can relate. If you can't, I hope you don't relate, you know? Like, I really hope we don't have a lot of people being like, this is how I feel. But I know that's not realistic. But I'm very curious because, you know, it's nice to know that we're in this together and you're not alone. And life is great. It's what you make of it. And being self-aware. I'm the most self-aware person that I know, I think. And it's stupid because being so self-aware, I don't get the help that I need, even though I'm aware that I need it. But like being self-aware of what's going on in your life, how you feel, being honest with yourself, being honest with those around you is going to help you immensely in the long run. Even if you want to DM us and you've never spoken to somebody about it before, but it feels good to talk about it just to get it all out there. We're not here to judge you. Like
never
here to judge you. Like it might feel good to talk about it. Don't hold it in. Don't, act out in a way that you're not going to be happy about, later on. And drastic measures, like she said, you don't want to get to that extent.
Yeah.
But yeah.
It's just a matter of really checking in with yourself and knowing what's going on with you, and if you're feeling a certain way and you don't know why you feel that way, figuring out how you can figure out why you're feeling that way, and surrounding yourself with people that don't judge you and just listen to you. And like me with Scott, I I wasn't necessarily judging, but I was. And I had to be educated on that's not the correct way to handle a situation. So if the people around you are not handling things correctly, educate them. And I don't know, just take care of yourself because it really is so important. And just because you think like, oh, I'm feeling better today does not mean that you're better. And that's okay. There is no shame in asking for help.
Mm-hmm.
I ask for help all of the time.
Yes, she does.
Literally.
I've said I don't want to be a therapist, but I am her therapist.
No, she gives really great advice. No, but seriously, I don't know. I feel like I talk about mental health all the time, but I don't really go so deep into really what I feel and go through. Like we were talking about in the beginning of the episode, I poke fun of myself and make jokes about it. But that's the thing is you can laugh about it, but then it can still also be something that really, really is affecting you. Yeah. And same thing with you.
Mm-hmm. I can have a smile on my face, but really have like some demons there too. And it's nothing to be ashamed of. Like no. I'm not ashamed of the way I feel and the way my brain works. Am I exhausted sometimes? 100%. I'm fucking over it. I'm like, just give me a perfect brain and I'd be happy. But that's just not what life handed to me. And I have been navigating through it these 31 years. So almost 32 years.
I'm going to keep
on navigating. And I love you, Dad. My dad, like I said, has been the biggest supporter aside from knowing what's going on mentally for me, but like he as my best friend has helped me a lot deal with my mental issues without knowing he's helping me deal with mental issues. So I really appreciate him. I appreciate you. I appreciate all of my friends that have been there because, you know, like I could have really gotten into even darker places if it had not been for some people that really were open and understanding, or relating to what was going on. And I'm so appreciative of Cam because he knows and he understands. He's been through it. We work through things together, and it's just been a breath of fresh air to kind of get a hang of my depression and my anxiety. Like I've suffered through it still. I have my little bouts of anxiety and depression, but I'm feeling like having an understanding partner has helped me get a grip on that even more.
I just think having anybody in your life that can either understand or just judge-free listen is so important and is the first step of healing. Because if you're just doing this all alone, it is it's like so
a broken record in your brain
to get meaner to yourself and harder on yourself when it's just you. So don't go through things alone. Figure out, join a group of
there's
people.
Plenty of groups too.
There's so many groups.
There's so many. I guarantee there's Reddit threads if you really wanted to go to Reddit.
There's so many
but like
free things too to help yourself.
So we just wanted to come on and like let you guys know that you're not alone, that we're aware of mental health and how it treats people as a whole and just as a society and how it's looked upon, and you know, wanting to give our experiences to you so that you know that you're not alone and may or may not have similar things going on, and that it's okay, and it's okay to talk about it.
Yeah. And if
like I literally am just telling, I don't even know how many people listen to this or whatnot, but I do know that I know my dad listens and my boyfriend's mom listens. So this was like a big step for me.
My parents.
Yeah, her parents. Like this is a big step for me to even talk about this on a public platform because I've never done. Yeah. I've never talked about it. It's never been a thing for me. I
remember when she told me that she wanted to talk about it, I was like, okay.
Yeah.
Let's do it.
I just feel like it's necessary. I feel
really
like it's another step in my life too. Now you guys are all going to hold me accountable, you know? Like there's more people that are going to know about it, and I can't just hide it, and I don't want to talk about it. You know what I'm saying? Like I don't want to talk to people about it. Like if I want to, I will, but like I don't want people coming up and being like, "What are those?"
But I also think that it's empowering that you've now addressed it, and now it's like a matter of you already told the world what it is.
Yeah.
And you're like, this is something that I went through and I've grown and I'm still growing and I'm going through it and I'm going to get to
Maybe
a
I'm in
point.
my final form now.
Yeah. I think that, like we were saying before, I don't think there's anything to be ashamed of, that's something you went through. And the fact that you know that you never want to do it again and you want to find other ways to feel that same relief without actually hurting yourself is so empowering and is so brave and to talk about to people, because hopefully if just even one person can turn around and be like, I don't want to do this, I want to figure out a better way to help myself, then it's all worth it.
All fucking worth it.
Yeah.
So now you guys know some of my dirty laundry.
Not dirty laundry.
Some of my mental issues.
All things that shape you to be you. And what I just wanted to quickly say one last time is, if you're listening to this and you just have someone in your life that's going through it, whatever it may be, biggest piece of advice is what Shanley told me, is don't take it personally. Take yourself out of the equation. Just be there to listen.
Yeah. And even if you do feel personally attacked by it, like as a person looking into the life of a depressed person, if you're taking offense to it and you do have your little moments, your slip-ups of arguing and taking it personally, be willing to learn.
Yeah.
Like, be willing to be like, okay, I kind of fucked up.
And apologize.
And apologize. Like,
That-
own up.
I mean, knowing how to apologize is like the biggest thing, I think, in every relationship, friendship, family relationship, boyfriend, girlfriend, boyfriend, boyfriend, and whatever.
Stop being so stubborn.
Be able to say sorry.
Swallow your pride.
And drink your water.
And drink water. Anyway, this has been the longest episode of our lives.
But I'm glad it was just kind
Yeah.
of like a free for all.
Yeah. I think this is going to be, I think you guys, I don't know if you necessarily are going to enjoy the episode, but I think that you guys are going to have more understanding of who we are as people and what mental health is.
Definitely you.
Why I'm so fucking tough.
Yeah.
Ain't nothing can hurt me. I can't even hurt myself.
Oh my gosh.
Oh my
See,
god.
and
Okay.
there's the jokes.
There's the jokes. There's how we cope. All right, guys. It's been real.
Very real.
Very real. I think we're gonna get on a good kick here.
Yeah.
We'll see you guys next week.
We'll see you next week. And yeah. Love you.
Love you. Bye.
Bye-bye.